Hi, yesterday was Yud Shvat, the 10th day of Shvat, which is the yahrzeit of the Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, otherwise known as the Frierdiker Rebbe or the Rebbe Rayatz. Now, he was the only son that was born to the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab. And it's actually interesting, the story behind his birth, which is on the one hand a very, very human tale, on the other hand a very out-of-worldly type of tale. And it's written about by his mother, Rebbetzin Stern Sarah, that she says in her writings that she was already married for a few years and they didn't have any children, and she was very hurt, very upset about that, as we can all imagine. And it happened that they went to her father-in-law's house, the Rebbe Marash, the 4th Lubavitcher Rebbe's house, to stay with him for Simchas Torah, the holiday of Simchas Torah. Now, during the Kiddush of Simchas Torah, all the ladies, all the female members of the family were given a blessing, a bracha from the Rebbe Marash. However, for whatever reason, she was not included in this bracha, and she was feeling very, very left out about it. Even though afterwards, he did give her a bracha, he did give her a blessing, but she was very pained by the whole situation and the whole circumstances, and she went back to her room, and she just broke out in tears. She was very pained by the fact that, number one, she didn't have any children yet. She was very far away from her parents and her family. And then, most of all, she felt very bad about the idea that she was left out of this blessing. And she just cried and cried and cried until she fell asleep. Now, when she was asleep, in the middle, she wound up having a dream. A magnificent-looking man came to her in the middle of this dream and said to her, "My daughter, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And she just expressed everything that was on her heart to this man. He said not to worry, that he's going to give her a blessing, and that within the year she is going to have a son. However, there is a condition, he said, that you must give 18 rubles from your own money to tzedakah. As long as you do fulfill that condition, then everything's going to be fine. And he said to her, one second, I don't know if he said to wait or not, but he went away, and then he came back with two other very special looking men. And they, again, this man said over the same blessing again to the Rebbetzin Stern Sarah, and they concurred, and they also blessed her, and she woke up. Now, after such a dream, that was incredibly special. When her husband, the Rebbe Rashab, who wasn't the Rebbe yet, but he came back, he was in a very happy mood. And as a matter of fact, she writes in her writings that he even somersaulted across the threshold of the room that they were staying in. Now, she told him about her dream, and immediately he got up and went to his father, the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash asked that she should be brought to him, and when she described the people in the dream, the Rebbe Marash said, the first person that came to you was my father, the Tzemach Tzedek, the 3rd Lubavitcher Rebbe. And then the two people that he brought were actually the Alter Rebbe, the 1st Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Mittler Rebbe, the 2nd Lubavitcher Rebbe. He said that you should definitely fulfill the condition, and then, God willing, the bracha obviously will be mekuyim, it will actually take place. And that is in fact what she did. She had a dress. She didn't know where she's going to get the 18 rubles of her own money. What does that mean? So she had a dress that was quite fashionable, but it was not something that she was accustomed to wearing for whatever reason, and she decided she was going to sell it after that day, and she wound up selling it, and she took 18 of those rubles from the sale, and she wound up giving it to charity, to tzedakah, and after that, as we know, the bracha was mekuyim, it actually took place, and she gave birth to the Rebbe Rayatz. There are so many stories about the Frierdiker Rebbe that it's, I mean, as again, you know, like what do you choose? But I want to tell you one story that caught my eye this week that I wanted to share with you. Now, in the Soviet Union at that time, I'm talking about in 1927, one of the provinces was a province called Georgia. And over there were many Sephardic Jews that were also very much influenced by the Rebbe Rashab and Lubavitch movement. And he actually opened up a branch of the famous Lubavitcher Yeshiva, Tomchei Tamimim there. And there happened to be one person, his name is Shimon, who became a Chacham. A Chacham is a rabbi in the Sephardic world. And when the Soviets wound up taking control, and the communists took control of the area, what happened was that As we know, they made a tremendous clampdown on Yiddishkeit, and they closed all the schools, Jewish schools, and they closed all the whole expressions of how a person could serve Hashem in a Yiddish way. However, having said that, we know that the Lubavitch movement set up a whole system of underground schools, chadarim, and all different types of shuls and mikvahs and everything that was being run at that time. Now, this Shimon, who was a chacham, he was a rabbi of the synagogue there, he actually had studied in the Tomchei Tamimim in Georgia. And what happened was that he was very closely connected to the previous Rebbe, and he used to go every single day to different people's homes, and he would teach the children Torah. Now, before long, the secret police called him in for a meeting. And they spoke to him at first very calmly, and then after a while they said, who is paying for you to go and teach Torah to all these children? He looked at them like, I don't know what you're talking about. What children? What Torah teaching? What are you talking about? He said, come on, every day you go to this home and that home. We know what you're doing. So he told them that really they were asking him to come and get rid of the evil eye. That this is what they wanted him to do. They said, and they pay you for it? He said, yes, they pay me for this. And they said, and does it work? He says, what's the difference if it works, it doesn't work? They're paying me for it. What's the difference? He made it look like it was, it's like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's like making this fool, like a little bit of a clown type of a scenario here, that he was just doing this. So they said, really? This is what you're doing? Yeah, this is what he's doing. And they were like laughing about it. And they said, okay, why don't you step outside for a minute? Now, when he stepped outside, he took advantage of the opportunity and he decided, I'm out of here. And he started walking towards the front door of the secret police building, and the guard was there. And he said, where are you going? He said, they told me I can go. Now, no one would ever imagine that someone would just walk out of the building of the secret police. So he just kept walking, and he walked and he went home and immediately got all his stuff together and he took off. And within a few moments, or a small period of time, the secret police were out there looking for him, and by that time he was already hiding in one place, hiding in another place, and decided what he's going to do is he's going to go to the previous Rebbe to find out what he should do. So he took a train from Georgia all the way to Leningrad. That's where the Frierdiker Rebbe was living at that time. Now, in fact, the previous Rebbe had just been released from jail, and he was sent into exile to a place called Kostroma. So as soon as this Reb Shimon heard about this, he immediately got into a train. He went to Kostroma. Now, when he showed up at the apartment of the previous Rebbe in Kostroma, the Chassidim that were there were very unhappy, because this was a very dangerous situation. Here, the previous Rebbe was sent out into exile to Kostroma and have people coming in to have meetings. He said, I need to have a yechidus, I have to have a personal meeting with the Rebbe. Finally, he was able to have this meeting, and he told the previous Rebbe everything that had happened. So the previous Rebbe told him, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to Moscow and get documents that you were trading, buying and selling some merchandise with the government in Moscow, and then I want you to go back to Georgia and go to the GPU, the secret police headquarters, and show it to them and tell them that because of that they didn't like what you were doing, that you decided to become a merchant, and then everything is going to be totally fine. Can you imagine? So he said, but I don't know anyone in Moscow. How am I going to find these Chassidim that are going to be able to help him? He said, go to Moscow and find Baruch Shalom. That's who you have to find. And give him this paper, and he wrote down some instructions on the paper, and he told Shimon to tell Baruch Shalom, after he reads through the instructions, he should destroy the paper. And that was the end of the meeting. It's like finding a needle in a haystack here. How is he going to find Baruch Shalom? Okay, anyway, this is what the Rebbe said. This is what he's going to do. He goes on a train to Moscow, and when he gets to Moscow, he knows that one of the most dangerous places to be in any of the Russian cities, especially in Moscow, is the train station, because there are many secret policemen there that are looking out for anyone that looks a little unusual, out of place. So as soon as he got to the train station, he walked towards the subway, got on the subway, and started traveling. Now, as he's looking around in the subway car, he sees a man with a long white beard. It's very unusual. It was very early in the morning. But he goes over to him, and he sits down next to him, and they're like sort of looking at each other with the corner of their eye, because everyone's like scared to say anything over there. And finally says, the old man says to him, where are you coming from? He says, he's coming from Kastrama. Immediately, that was like a signal, because everyone knew that Rebbe was exiled to Kastrama. And so he smiled. He said, and so Shimon says, I'm looking for a person named Baruch Shalom. He says, I'm Baruch Shalom. Like, total surprise. Now imagine that. Imagine that you went to New York, and you went to Grand Central Station, and you got on a subway. And on the subway, you're looking for some person in New York that you don't even know who they are. And who is sitting next to you on that subway? This person. It's outrageous. Incredible. Anyway, they don't speak for the rest of the ride. Baruch Shalom gets up to leave when it gets to his stop. Shimon follows him. They go back to Baruch Shalom's house. They embrace. They're so happy. And Baruch Shalom tells them that it's just amazing, because I never traveled the subway this early in the morning. But I had an inclination. All of a sudden, I woke up early this morning and had this strong inclination that I needed to go on the subway for whatever reason. He said, look at the miracle that took place here. Anyway, he shows him the paper, and Baruch Shalom organizes the documents with the different Chassidim. And what happens? As soon as Shimon gets the documents, he goes back to Georgia. He goes back home. They're so happy to see him. They haven't seen him in so long. However, he says, now I'm going to the headquarters of the secret police. They say, what? Are you crazy? You're going to go to the headquarters? Better for you to hide. Just don't. What are you doing? And his whole family, everyone was against the idea. He said, no, the Rebbe told me to do this. Is what I have to do. I have to follow the Rebbe's words, word by word, exactly. So he walks into the building, and who's there? The guard that he let go. He said, I've been looking for you. Where did you go? He said, what do you mean, where did I go? I just went home. And I went to do things. He said, let me take you into the meeting place of where you were before. So he went into the meeting place and he met the men. And they said, where'd you run away from? I didn't run away. I went to Moscow. You said that you didn't like what I was doing, so I changed my profession. I became a merchant. Here are some documents of the sales that I did. And that's what it is. That's what I did. They told him, what? They looked at the documents. They're legitimate documents. And they said, you know what? It's a good thing that you came back to us. Because if we would have caught you, we would have sent you to Siberia for 10 years, minimum. But now that you came back, we see that you changed your profession, you're free to go. And he walked out of the police office and went home. And that's what happened. And that's the story. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbos.